Hello and welcome to the final horror month, whatever, October bonus video. It's been a fun month, I've enjoyed. Hopefully you've enjoyed the spooks and scares. So for the final day I wanted to do something special. I wanted to go over some horror movies that I've watched. So basically my letterbox, I kind of set it up at the time where I started SIWs. If you don't remember that, it was a movie review series on the channel. Pretty low effort, um, but 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 yeah, it was fun. I've kind of moved apart from that just because of how low effort that was. But but I'm feeling pretty it's Halloween, so I wanted to maybe show some movies I've watched over the recent years. This is probably like I don't know when I made this exactly. Basically, my letterbox isn't all the movies I've watched, because obviously, if you've seen the other horror movie special from last year, there's like around 200. This is like movies I've watched from like a year and a half, I think. Just the horror movies. I've obviously watched different ones, but I'm sorting it through horror movies, and I wanted to kind of just go through them, give my takes, very short takes, because there's a lot to go through. And I don't know, maybe you'll find something you like. See if I even remember some of these. So yeah, we're gonna go 10 at a time, or whatever, a row at the time, and just give my quick thoughts on it. Yeah, so I think I made this like mid 2019. I actually don't remember though. It might actually just be 2020. I wonder if there's actually a way to check. Hold on. Let's check my profile. Created. Oh, so basically 125 films. I watched 71 of those were horror movies. I guess you can see my preferences and movie types. I don't actually know how. Okay, so we'll just go with it though. Basically, a good amount of movies. So first off, we have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This was sort of big, right? I didn't watch this in theaters though. I gave it a 4 out of 10 or a 2 stars. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't think it was that scary. Apparently, I thought it was all CG, but apparently there is some practical effects. So I mean, maybe that's a good thing about the movie. But the CG in the movie was, I know there definitely is CG, and that was pretty bad. It's definitely a child horror thing, like like sort of a Goosebumps feel in my opinion. Maybe a little more mature, and that doesn't really scare me. I know this was a popular book series for kids, but I've never read them as a kid, so I had no nostalgia value either. So basically, it just wasn't that good for me. I know Del Toro helped make this movie, and I'm not like a huge fan of him, but I really loved like Pan's Labyrinth and some of the earlier stuff by him. But yeah, this just didn't do it for me. So 4 out of 10. Get it out of here. Tetsuo the Iron Man. 7 out of 10. Wow. I don't even know if I'd keep that mark. It's a very interesting movie. It's very unique. It's black and white, I think. I guess it probably is from the banner. It's definitely feels more like a creative art project slash music video in a way. I think a lot of people like to describe it as a music video-esque sort of thing. Apparently it's a revenge story. I remember looking it up because I had no idea what the hell I was watching. But yeah, it's definitely it's a movie where I think you should watch it, but it's not a movie that I would ever really want to watch again. I guess it's a fun experience. I haven't watched the sequels at all. I do remember getting like a headache at some of the erratic camera directions. Like it's very shaky, and it just made me feel kind of nauseous. So that wasn't great. But I'm sure everyone would have a different experience with it. But yeah, it's a crazy, fun time, and 7 out of 10. Yeah, just for the fun of it, but it's definitely not like my favorite my favorite movie. Ah, yes, the 2020 remake of The Grudge. If you don't know, I'm a huge Ju-on fan. I love the Grudge series. I've watched everything Grudge, and the original two movies from Japan are like two of my favorite horror movies. Definitely two of my favorite Japanese horror movies, and I'm a big fan of Japanese horror in general. Obviously, this was pretty disappointing. I didn't have high expectations for this film, despite having a pretty good cast. It's just it failed under my expectations. I watched this in theater, despite it probably not being great, but it was just really disappointing. I barely remember it now, so it's hard to make comments on it, but I do remember it being advertised as like, it's not a sequel or anything, it's a completely new start to the series, completely different story, but that was just a lie. It's literally a sequel to the original Grudge, maybe from Japan or the original movie, because they reference it, and that's how the curse came to America, because of the first movie. So it is literally a sequel, like a standalone sequel, but it's still related. Also, the ghost budget Kayako, it just couldn't compare to the original ghost lady. So I know the little person replacing Toshio was pretty bad. It also tried to mimic a lot of the directorial like aspects, like the confused timeline and stuff, but it just didn't work. It literally just felt like a bad sequel, in my opinion. Since Letterboxd only does movies, I don't have any TV shows, but I do recommend there was a new 2020 Netflix Ju-on series, which is actually a standalone thing. Kind of. It's like in a universe where the Ju-on movies are actually just movies, and this is its own thing, which is pretty cool. So I really consider the Netflix one, which I think is really good, actually, to be like what this one should have kind of aimed for, but this is just a disappointment. Also, I'm not even a fan of this director. A lot of people were like hyped about him, but his other movie, what is it, Mother's Eyes or whatever, was not great. Pretty decent. There was like one jump scare, but jump scares always get me, so boo. Onibaba, 1964, black and white, by the legend Kaneto Shindo. I haven't seen a lot of his films, I'll be honest. This was my first, I think. You've probably heard this name before. It's very popular. If you look up like lists of Japanese horror movies, this is usually like their number one spot, and I think it's really good. It kind of does live up to the hype. It does have a very traditional story, which feels like it could be a folktale. The setting was really great. It's basically a village in lawn reeds, which kind of like replaces the normal forest with like these lawn reeds, which also like obscure vision, so it's very tense in those moments. It's basically like a story about a mother who lives with her daughter-in-law whose husband died in the war, and then the daughter-in-law is falling in love with one of the husband's friends, so she kind of doesn't want them to get together because she'll be all alone. It's that kind of story. It's fun. Some problems I do remember it is like the repetition for some of the shots. I feel like some of the shots were just literally on repeat, going through the reeds, which again is really fun. I think the setting was beautiful. And in general, I'm not like super into this traditional style of story because I feel like it's a little restrictive in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but it just doesn't vibe with me as hard. But I still think it's great. I give it an 8 out of 10, so I obviously really enjoyed it, and I definitely think it's worth the watch. But yeah, good stuff. It's not a 10 out of 10 for me, but if you do give it a 10 out of 10, I wouldn't blame you or anything. I respect the decision. Next, Underwater 2020. So I did watch this. I enjoyed it. I mean, I gave it a 5 stars. People even rated higher than me, huh? I expected it to be worse because it has a Kristen Stewart as the main role, and I'm not a big Kristen Stewart fan, but she actually did pretty well. Maybe it's because she didn't have a lot of talking roles. I thought maybe I am underrating this a bit because I do remember the setting being very good. I mean, I love the idea of like a deep sea horror story. You don't really see those too much as you would think, because they're really really fun to watch. Definitely Lovecraftian too. It's a little bit of an action horror, and I'm just not the biggest action horror fan in general. Like, I'm not actually that big of a fan of some of the bigger names like Aliens. I didn't really enjoy that as much. Lots of I remember there's a lot of explosions where like there's an explosion, then the characters like fly away in slow motion. Like, they do that like 5 times, and that's pretty annoying. But it's definitely decent. Like, I wouldn't mind bumping it up to 6 stars. It's enjoyable. I think I rated that back when we did SIWs, I think that I rated that my favorite horror movie of the month, so it's not horrible. Carnival of Souls, 1962. This one's a classic. Maybe it's a little surprising. I only gave it a 6 out of 10. I wasn't too big on it. It was a little sleepy to me. I don't know, it just didn't really spook me as much as other people do. It did for other people, obviously. I enjoyed it mostly. I enjoyed the story. I liked the villain. I thought he was pretty creepy, but yeah, I actually don't remember too much about it because I didn't vibe with it as much. But as you can see, people really enjoy it. I think it's alright. The Black Coat's Daughter by Oz Perkins. Okay, I really enjoyed this movie. I even made Oz Perkins a director to look out for. There's for the new wave horror directors, like, there's a couple which I think is worth seeing. Sadly, in my opinion, I really did not enjoy Oz Perkins' other work so far, so I've kind of dropped him a bit. I think his other works are pretty bad, and I'm pretty sure they're on this list, so we can talk about those later. But I really enjoyed it. It's starring Emma Roberts, and she actually did. It was a very good performance by her, which is surprising because then she's also not an actress I really like. Maybe again, she doesn't really talk in this movie, but it's a very creepy movie. That's the best way to describe it. Interesting plot, very subtle, I feel, and it leaves you with questions at the end to make your own interpretations, but not in a frustrating way. The violence also felt very visceral without being too gory, in my opinion. So it just hit a lot of check marks that I enjoyed, and I would definitely recommend this. I think it's a Netflix banger, so you can check that out. But yeah, I really like this. One of my more liked recent movies, at least in this decade. House of a Thousand Corpses by Rob Zombie, my only Rob Zombie movie I've seen. I didn't love this movie. I know it's a cult classic. I think I liked a lot of aspects. Like, I really enjoyed watching it. It felt very unique. Like, I haven't really watched a movie similar to it with all its B-roll and stuff like that. Very interesting story, gory. It's pretty jam-packed with stuff, I feel, that isn't really coherent, but it's a fun movie. I'm giving it a 4, but I think it's actually a fun watch. I'm just not great on it. I don't know, I would never give it that high, but I don't hate it. I think it's, if a movie is unique, at least it has that going with it. I'd rather watch a unique movie than a boring movie, and this movie definitely wasn't boring. Reanimator, another classic. I really enjoyed this one, actually. I thought it was very fun to watch. The practical effects were interesting. The story was great. I really loved both of the lead actors in it, and the female one. I like the lead actors better. It's definitely a comedic story, I feel. A horror comedy almost. But not like full comedy, like, I don't know, like Tuck and Dale or something like that, but it's good. I haven't watched the sequels, but I don't know. I can't even say much about it. I just remember really enjoying it. It's very theatrical in a way. And people love it too. I respect it. Over Your Dead Body by Takeshi Miike. I'm sure you've heard that name if you are a fan of Japanese cinema in general, because he doesn't just do horror movies. This was good. It was interesting. How it was, like, the timeline of it was pretty fun to piece together. It had some generally creepy stuff. It gave me a lot of Ju-on vibes for some of the scenes, like this really bloody scene I don't really want to talk about, but yeah, to me in general though, just the way it was directed and how it kind of felt like a budget audition, which is another work by Takeshi Miike, actually my personal favorite Japanese horror movie, so if you haven't watched Audition, you should probably check it out. It's pretty famous though, so you probably don't need me to say it. But yeah, it just came as sort of an alright movie that's just not as good as Audition, just because of how it felt, but it's definitely worth checking out, I guess. I don't know. The Turning, I watched this in theaters, I remember. It was like packed with high school kids. I think they were like watching it for a school project or something, I don't know. It wasn't great at all. I don't think I liked it at all. At this point, I've read the short story. I haven't watched any of the film works. I do know I later watched one of the older ones, unknowingly actually. I didn't realize until I started the movie. But this was just not good. The beginning act, the first act felt very disorienting with the camera work and made me actually very nauseous during the movie theater, so I hated that. Like, it made me want to throw up. I don't know why, maybe it was just me, but I hated that. The story is convoluted with it has an open-ended ending, or a confusing one, that literally made the audience go, what the fuck was that? Not in a good way like Blackwood's Daughter. This was just a frustrating movie to watch and not great at all, so yeah, bleh. The Conspiracy, Canadian movie, I believe. This is good. This is a handheld. Oh, what is it? Found footage. That's what you call it. Found footage mockumentary about two people doing a documentary about conspiracies and how deep it goes. I really enjoyed this. I recommended it to someone else, but they didn't enjoy it as much. I thought it was a fun watch. Really highlights both how the conspiracy theorists are kind of crazy and how well, what if the conspiracies are real, like both sides of it, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Good Canadian film. So let me just open up the next batch. This is gonna be a long video. Alright, we're back. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This was my first silent film, actually, so that was pretty fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting watch. I didn't really... The twist hit me. It definitely was interesting. I didn't know what to expect from this, but I was definitely surprised at the twist, and I was pretty impressed because I didn't know how I'd feel about watching a silent film, but it worked well. I'm glad there was music. I'm sure the music was added, as it was a different movie. I mean, a different release of the movie. But yeah, it's a fun experience. For some reason, I thought it was a vampire movie. It's definitely not a vampire movie. It's trippy. The story is definitely gripping, and it's just a great watch. I really enjoyed it. Oz Perkins movie, his latest work. I really hated this in a lot of ways. I know some people liked it. Obviously, by the title, it is reimagining / remake of the Hansel and Gretel story. This one focusing more on Gretel as they switch the names. It's interesting. It's a different take. It's more about Gretel like slowly like learning about witchcraft and stuff. It was just, I just hated the decision to make people talk all almost Shakespearean. It was just annoying and hard to follow. And I'd much enjoy it better if they didn't. Like, I wouldn't even care if they did it like just an old English accent or whatever they usually do for these type of movies based on this setting, which you see a lot these days. But I just couldn't handle the old English. It was very annoying in my opinion. But yeah, just not a great watch. Alice Perkins, you failed me. Satanic Panic. This was a good movie. This is definitely a B movie, schlocky film. I even rated above average. I really had fun with this movie. It's not scary at all. It's just a fun movie in my opinion. It's about a pizza girl like delivering pizza to a house of cultists during like one of their rituals, and it's just crazy fun. And yeah, very enjoyable watch. I would actually recommend this, unless you really don't like the schlocky type of movies. But I like them once in a while. Saint Agatha, I do remember this one being horribly boring. It's sort of like a nun horror movie, but not like a supernatural nun, just an evil nun. I forgot exactly how it worked. I just remember giving it like 1 star because there was one interesting kill where someone choked another person with an umbilical cord, but otherwise it was pretty boring and would never recommend. Cemetery Man. Classic movie. It's kind of I guess it would be like erotic horror. Definitely has a lot of erotic undertones. It's about a cemetery keeper who kills corpses that come back to life to protect the town. Very fun, and again, it's it's sexy, it's cool. The plot does get pretty interesting, and also like this good comedy aspects. The ending I got kind of confused about, to be honest, but maybe I'm not big brain enough. But yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it. I respect the 5 stars, honestly. I can see why you would. It just wasn't a 5 star for me. I feel like if you give something 5 stars, it definitely has to hit your personal tastes more. I don't think anything I really rate 5 stars is just based on a technical aspect, in my opinion. I don't know. I Trapped the Devil. This was I think this did pretty well. I feel like it was kind of hyped up for a modern horror film. It's pretty interesting. It's about a guy who thinks he trapped the devil in his basement, and his family members like come over unknowingly and it's like, what is happening? It's funny. I mean, it's not funny. It's a fun watch. There's some intense parts. It's not very scary in my opinion. And the idea of like, is the devil in the basement? I think it's pretty obvious about that question. I thought they could play on it a bit more without giving the voice in the basement like a very deep and devilish voice. Like, I thought it would be a much more interesting movie without that. So you're actually thinking, is this guy crazy or did he really capture the devil? It was very one-sided in my opinion, but yeah, it's decent. I don't know. Pledge. I do remember this. It's about people in a school joining I don't know what they're called, whatever, a university club thing, and it turns out that they're kind of crazy. It's a fun movie. It's a 4-star fun movie that you can enjoy. It's kind of schlocky again, but it's not nothing I would put your time away. Just something if you need a time waster. Black Swan. I watched this in the airport. This definitely wasn't my first watch of it. It's one of my favorite horror movies. Definitely my favorite Darren Aronofsky movie. I don't really like a lot of his other works. But yeah, Natalie Portman's great in it. Very fun story. Fun. fun as in entertaining, I guess. It's not very fun story. It's very depressing and dark, but I liked it. I liked how they integrated the swan story. It felt very like theatrical, like a play, and it was just a good watch. It was good enough for me to watch on the airplane again, so this time might tell you something. The Meg, I watched this on the airplane too. I don't even know if I finished it. I feel like I did, but I can't remember. I don't like short stories. It just doesn't do much for me. Um, but they aren't not scary. I think shark gore actually is pretty effective for me personally, but it's just not something I enjoy watching, and I don't really like Jason Statham too, despite him being pretty popular. I just don't enjoy watching it, and I didn't enjoy this movie. It's just whatever. I don't know, if you really like sharks, then go watch it. You get some big shark boys. The Girl on the Third Floor. This was starring the wrestler, right? This was good. It's an artsy film. Lots of semen dripping out of places. I do remember that. It's fun. It's nothing extraordinary. I gave it above average just because of its creativeness. I know some people didn't like it. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was awful, but it's not something I really recommend or watch again. But it's not bad if you want to see the wrestler guy who I don't remember his name. CM Punk. There you go. It's alright. Phantasm's another classic. It's good. I actually like the idea of it a bit more than some of the other classic movies. The reveal of what the Phantasm guy really is, I thought was pretty interesting. And I like all his little knickknacks and the killing stuff. It's a good movie. It's interesting. It's fun. It's not very scary, but you probably know it. I don't know. Apparently one of the sequels is good, then the rest of the series is bad. But I haven't took the time to watch it. But no, I definitely don't. I don't regret watching it. I thought it was pretty good, and I respect people who rate it higher. Honestly. Nightmare Cinema. This is a movie I literally just don't remember anything about. I remember it's an anthology. I remember one of the stories, but I just can't remember literally anything else about it. So apparently it's a 5 stars, so it's average. I don't know. I generally do like anthology stories though, so it maybe had that sort of boost going for it. I find them a little more enjoyable even if they're bad, just because you get a lot of variety. Okay, second row complete. Third row, let's go. Alright, now we have the Fantasy Island movie. This is sort of a prequel to the TV show. I don't know, I have no nostalgia from the TV show. Obviously I gave it a little higher. I did watch this in theaters. There's only like me and some guy who like left after 10 minutes. But I thought it was fine. It's not really a horror movie. It just felt like a thriller. I like the concept of an island granting you wishes and turning them against you. I thought that was kind of cool, but it's just not a very good movie. Don't care about any of the characters, etc., etc. The Boy. So I did watch this in preparation for The Boy 2. It's actually decent. I thought this surprised me. It was actually... I liked the twist. I remember it having a very fun twist. I'm not scared of dolls personally. Dolls don't scare me, so movies like Chucky and Annabelle just don't really do anything for me. Same with this one, but fun twist. I don't know if it's worth watching a movie just for the twist at the end, but I enjoyed it. I think it's worth the 5 out of 10. Suicide Club. So this was my first Sion Sono movie. I went on a sort of a Sion Sono marathon back then, and I really love exposure. I gave it 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, because I thought that was an amazing movie, but that's not gonna be on here because it's not a horror movie. This is pretty iconic though. It is an interesting story. I think it gets a little confusing and doesn't have a real resolution to what the hell was happening, so that kind of made me lose it. I don't know. It was fun. The opening scene was really good. I enjoyed most of it though, and I liked Sion Sono's work. He has a very distinct directive style. Lots of handheld shots, which I don't know if it breaks immersion for some people, but I enjoy it. Apparently my dad met Sion Sono when he came to Toronto for a film festival. I really wish I was old enough to meet him. Also, his name, man. when I was watching it, I kept accidentally calling him like Sion Sonosaki or Shion Sono. Just it's so close, right? That's bonus points. But yeah, it's a fun one. It's definitely a thonker movie where you need to think about it a bit, and it doesn't really give you clear cut answers, so you can't really like actually answer your questions fully. But it's fun. It had fun sequences. I liked the mid boss villains. They were fun to watch. But yeah, good stuff. Harpoon. This was a very fun movie. I don't know what I was expecting from it, but it is incredibly entertaining. It's definitely has comedic aspects, but I think the gore is pretty good and the story is pretty gripping. I don't really want to talk too much about it just because of how surprising it was, but this is the low key hit because I had no expectations, and it definitely hit the high bar for me. Also, apparently it's Canadian. Nice bonus Canadian points. Seems like some people hated it, but I thought it was very charming. Oh my god, it's the birds. Why isn't it 5 stars, Aiden? I'm sorry, it just wasn't. The OG Angry Birds movies. It just wasn't, it didn't hit me that hard. It hit me harder than 7 out of 10. It is kind of terrifying to think of just birds started deciding to kill humans, and how in this movie they don't even kill them for food, they just maliciously kill them. I thought that was pretty fun. Just as a movie today, it wasn't it was a very long movie, and I kind of got like bored near the end of it, but I respect it. I respect the Hitchcock movie. Don't put me on a stake. I know recently I had a discussion about Hitchcock with a commenter in Doki Doki, so yeah, I don't know, it was fun. It was definitely fun. I was going into it thinking it might be boring, but it turned out to be a very fun watch. But yeah, it's at my hard cap of 8 out of 10. That's the hard cap. When I see a really good movie, it's usually an 8 out of 10 unless I vibe with it super well, then I bump it up. Gwen. I do not remember this movie. I think it wasn't really a horror movie. It was just a very depressing movie. I'm sort of remembering it now that I'm trying to think about it, and it just had a very, very sad ending. Yeah, I think it was actually okay. I was expecting a super boring, like, I'm not too big of a fan of the olden time witch movies, which are just popping out everywhere. But this, I remember this not being an actual like horror movie, so yeah, I just remember it being very sad. But I thought it was decent. I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't a boring witch movie, but it wasn't a great movie, so yeah. Blah blah blah. The Innocence. So this is actually another take on the churning of the Screw short story, so I didn't know that going into this. It was fun. It was definitely better than the churning. It was a fun ghost story. It was much easier to follow, and the ending was much easier to understand while still being open-ended, because I think it's just an open-ended story in general. The peak ambiguity. This is peak ambiguity in cinematic form. Yeah, I respect Jesus Christ. I respect the 5 stars. I thought it was a really great movie, but it didn't hit the higher than 8 out of 10 because I didn't vibe with it well, and I was a little hesitant of watching something based around the same story as The Turning, but it's really, really good if you're fine with an old school style, not very scary, but very interesting and fun watch, in my opinion. The Devil's Candy. This was alright. I enjoyed this. It was kind of hyped up, and it lived probably as high as it was going to be. It's definitely a high intensity movie, basically definitely directed by like a metal rock fan or whatever. It's definitely it feels like that. It feels like a a rock metal movie, whatever that means. It's fun, it's high impact, it's gory, it's intense. It's good for what it is. Strange Circus, Sion Sono, huh? Oh, this movie. I think this was my least favorite out of the bunch I've watched from him. It was... Again, it has his classic directing style. I feel like it's present in every Sion Sono movie I watch. It's very graphically hard to watch in a good way. Like, it makes you feel sort of squeamish. The story itself is pretty good, I guess. I mean, I enjoyed it. It just was like hard to watch for me, which I guess is good in its own right. But I mean, it's Sion Sono. I honestly recommend almost any of his movies, or at least all the movies I've seen from him. So yeah, good movie. It gets a little spicy, this movie, I do remember that, but it's fun. Invisible Man, the last movie I seen in the theaters before it all shut down. It's good. I didn't love it as much as other people did, obviously. It definitely set the tension with, you know, this idea of an invisible man, so you're like looking in the background for clues that he's there. Near the end, the first half I thought was really good. The second half I thought was a little more boring with the action sequences and stuff like that, where it seemed a little silly. It seems silly to me. I don't know. I've never watched the OG ones. I know this is an actual like reimagining of the story, which I support. I like reimaginings when they're done right. So it's a fun thrillery-ish movie, but it kind of gets boring in the latter half, in my opinion. Coldfish, Sion Sono, based on a true murder story, though obviously it's probably definitely you know, creative changes. It's fun. It's basically it's very like hard to watch again, which is a good thing, I guess. Basically following a family who's moved and interacting with a serial killer. It's a crazy movie. I enjoyed it a bit more than Strange Circus, I feel. But yeah, it's a fun movie. The gore is good. The kills are good. I enjoy watching the character development of the dad. Basically just goes crazy in a good way. I respect people giving it a 5 stars, but you know, it doesn't, it's not a love exposure for me. Goku, another classic Japanese film. This one's very interesting. It's very artsy, barely has a story. Like, it has a story at the beginning, then the latter half is just people being tortured in hell and a guy navigating through hell. I love the visualization of hell, the weird torture stuff, a lot of teeth being broken by hammers and fucked up stuff like that. It's a very fun movie. It's very interestingly shot too. A lot of weird cuts in it. But yeah, it's a good movie if you can get your hands on it. I don't think it's as good as like Alibaba, I guess, is a good comparison, but it's definitely worth it, I think. And it's in color too. It's in janky color. It's one of the first ones in color. But yeah, quick pause as we move to the next row. Okay, next row we have Brahms the Boy 2. Oh, were you ready for this one? No, this one's horrible. It's definitely worse than the first one. I thought it really undid a lot of the good of the first one, while the first one wasn't supernatural. Kind of a spoiler, but I doubt you're lining up to see Brahm the Boy 1, so I think it's fine. This one negated that, making it actually supernatural, which I thought was pretty boring. But yeah, just bad, boring movie. Good one. Yeah, I don't know if there's any The Boy fans. Is there any 5-star? Wow. 65 5-star ratings. Who would do such a thing? So this was a week where I tried to watch some Southeast Asian films. You know, got my my film library up, seeing some different cultures. So there's a bunch of this in this row, which aren't as great. So Coming Soon was actually a movie I had on my list for a while. I just never got 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 to it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the scare aspect was there, like when they did the jump scare game was definitely strong. Also the plot, while I feel like it's done before, I can't actually remember what movie did it at this moment, but it's fun, it's interesting, it's definitely a decent I believe this was Indonesian. Don't hit me if it wasn't. But yeah, I can understand people liking it a bit more, but I just look for a little bit of a higher bar because of how much movies I've watched. But it's alright, it's definitely decent. Mon Monsters. Ooh, this is a Chinese film. Now, I'm definitely overrating this one. I know not a lot of people would give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this movie. This is probably my favorite Chinese horror movie. China definitely hasn't done much that I like, in my opinion. You know, there's definitely some classics like the Dumpling movie and the vampire action movie that people like a lot, but they don't really vibe with me. This one vibed with me a lot, honestly. It's about like a group of kids finding a monster and they kind of like capture it, and it becomes they're like torture plaything while the mother of the monster like searches for them. It's very sadistic. It's like very hard to watch. Really bad kids. And it's like, oh, you know, it's the classic, oh, is this, even though that's a monster, these kids are being the real monsters. But I thought it was done really well, and a fun and attentive watch through the whole thing, so I really enjoyed that. Next, the noise. This movie was so bad. I forgot what country this was. I think it was Malaysia. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But this was like decent in the beginning, in my opinion. Like the scares were effective. They did some very good tension work. But it just got silly in the latter half. A lot of janky CG with the boy. A lot of then it kind of abandons like its scariness, and I don't know why, but a bunch of Asian films, not just Southeast, I feel like even Korean, and I haven't really seen it in Japanese, but Chinese, Korean movies, they like bring in like the super exorcist in the second half, who like there's some mystical stuff, and it just makes the story not scary. And in this one, they bring like a super exorcist, and then they go into like who's doing like these spells, freaking key blasts on demons, ghosts, and whatever, and they go into like the spirit realm, and it just gets sillier. Without that stuff, and if it just kept going the direction it started, it would have been like up a half a star, or maybe even a full star. But this just wasn't great. Damn, 1 rating for 7. Jeez, I'd like to see that guy's thoughts on it. Yikes. Satan's Slave. This is Thai, I believe. This is good. I really like this director, Joko Anwar. I think we go to another movie of his later. It's a very fun watch, very tense. Story-wise, it's not like the greatest, but scare-wise, I think it does very good in the atmosphere in the jump scare department. Definitely would be my go-to if you want to see a Southeast Asian movie, and this director in general. I think he's definitely one of my my favorite Southeast Asian directors. I respect higher ratings too. I didn't love it enough to give it a 8 out of 10, but yeah, obviously out of the basket of Southeast Asian horror movies I've watched, this is definitely my favorite, I think. The Silence, this is South Korean. This one was interesting at the beginning, then like a lot of horror movies in particular, that's boring. Near the end it turns sort of like a sci-fi action thing. It's really weird and not fun. I like the creepy private school aspect at the beginning, but it just gets so boring, and I just couldn't. See, this is a 4 out of 10, but it's not a fun 4 out of 10 like House of a Thousand Corpses. This is a boring 4 out of 10, so yeah, I would never recommend this. CM Square. I don't remember what where this is from, sorry. But I thought this was pretty good. I thought it was decent. Definitely not this much of a decent movie. But it had me in the first half, as per usual. It's sort of like the classic student story where they mess with an urban legend and it slowly haunts them / kills them off. Oh, it's Thai. Okay, there you go, Thailand. But yeah, it's an interesting watch. I wouldn't recommend it, but I definitely didn't hate it, at least. So that's something good. Okay, Norio the Curse. So this is a rewatch for sure. I did watch this a lot. I think it's a great movie. I respect people giving it a 10 out of 10. The rewatch wasn't great though. I remember really loving it the first watch, and the rewatch just was not as interesting as the first. I was definitely looking forward to some of the scenes, and they didn't exactly live up to the way I thought they would, but some of the scenes I kind of forgot was really fun to watch again. Koji Shirashi is a very interesting director. He has a lot of jank under his belt, but this is definitely a great movie. A lot of people call it one of the best found footage movies in the genre, which I agree with. This and Rat are probably my two favorites. Rat, the Spanish film. But yeah, it's good. It's really great. I would definitely recommend this if you have not watched this. I think its first watch value is possibly like a 10 out of 10. I just didn't love it as much as the second watch. I do not remember. Oh, I kind of do remember this. So yes, someone kidnaps a girl and forces her to tell scary stories, but I'm having trouble remembering what the actual stories were in this anthology movie. I think there's a zombie story about them running away from zombies and a paramedic. I think there's like a home invasion story. I just don't remember it as much. So 5 out of 10, it's an anthology story. Again, I really enjoy those more than the average horror movie, so watch it if you will. I don't remember that though. It's pretty forgettable, so it's probably not great. Ooh, this movie. This is a Mexican movie, I believe. I did not like this. This was recommended to me. It was boring. I think the first half was really good. I feel like I keep saying that. With very shocking deaths that you wouldn't see, definitely in Hollywood. Like I remember a pool of kids getting electrocuted. Lots of violence against kids in this movie. But the second half is so boring, dude. It gets so blah. So blah. But yeah, nah. Another Mexican movie, I think. Is it? I actually don't remember. It's some sort of Spanishy movie. People love this movie. I knew it. It was very critically acclaimed when it came out. I respect it. Again, it felt like a child horror movie, kind of like scary stories to tell in the dark. So it doesn't really scare me at all or interest me as much, but this was definitely way better than that. Very interesting and fun story. And obviously it's heartbreaking to see bad things happen and kill, so it gets points on that, but it's not a great movie. I mean, it's a very good movie, but not like a super 8 out of 10 or higher movie. I guess. The Tagalon. What movie was this? This was it's not Chinese. It's something I haven't mentioned before. Maybe Singapore, I think? I don't remember. This movie is not good, but it's not horrible, I think. It has really, really funky CG, but I think the scares, at least in the first half, were pretty good. I viscerally remember being scared at a part where there's a creepy girl up on the top of a shelf or something. It's an interesting watch. It kind of drags near the ending, but I think the 2/3 of the movie were pretty fun. I don't know, but obviously it's not a great movie. But I respect it. Ju-on reference. I guess it was kind of like Ju-on. I just don't remember it as much. Alright, we're on 2 more rows to no rise. So that's 22 more movies. Hopefully you're enjoying this Halloween special. Alright, where are we? Dark Tales from Japan. This was another anthology. I actually do remember this well, so I think it's at least better than the other anthologies I gave 5 out of 10. I kind of remember it. I remember like 2 of them being pretty spooky, the rest being a little janky. This guy names them. Spider-Woman is super janky. The opening story is not great either, in my opinion. Probably like Spider-Woman level. Crevices, I think, was my favorite, and it's like the shortest and the best one, in my opinion. Sacrifice was, the ending was good. I really liked the production of that one. Blonde Caden, I think that was better than Spider-Woman, in my opinion. Premonition. Oh, Premonition was really good. Oh yeah, this one has Terugawa? I always forget his name. Teruyuki Kawadawa, one of my favorite J-drama actors. It was a very pleasant surprise seeing him in. So obviously, yes, I respect rating that one the highest actually. He's a great actor, so that was it was one of his earlier works, so that's why I was super happy to see him. But yeah, it's decent. It's, if you really want to watch an anthology movie, I guess it's better than the other ones I listed. Bedeviled. I thought this was Japanese, but it's actually Korean. Interesting. I like this movie. It's a revenge story, a classic revenge story almost, you know. Girl gets usually sexually abused, and then she gets her revenge in very gruesome ways. You've seen that a lot, like through I Spit on Your Grave and stuff like that. This is basically the same thing, where half the movie is just watching the girl being pushed, and then the second half, the killing part. It did have a little bit more to it, I feel, because there's 2 main female protagonists. One where you thought you'd be following, but then it's kind of a bait and you follow this other girl. Very satisfying deaths. I really enjoyed. Obviously, these movies are designed to like really make you feel tense for most of it, and then you get this nice release at the end. But this was one of my, I definitely enjoyed this for what it was, and I prefer to like some of the other revenge movies, so I enjoyed this. I respect the 8 out of 10 rating, but I gave it a 7, so. This movie, this was Polish? It was some sort of European. No, it wasn't. This was English, I think. Oh, I don't remember. This was a very funky movie. It was a fun movie. I didn't love it, but it's definitely a fairy tale-esque movie. Better than Gretel and Hansel, obviously, but it's funky. It's fun. Very entertaining plot. Not scary at all. I'd barely call this a horror movie, but it is. It's something. It's definitely unique in a good way. Oh, I think for that movie, the Blacksmith movie I just talked about, I watched the English dub of it, but it's actually not an English movie. I think that's the thing. Tiki Tiki, again by Koji Shirashi, same director as Nori. This movie was not good. I'm surprised even seeing these high of a ratings on this movie. I thought this movie was pretty trash, and I respect people giving it a lower mark. It's just silly. The monster looks silly. It's basically based on an urban legend, which I think is just this guy's specialty. He really likes those type of movies. It's not good though. I remember it, like, it's basically a woman looking with half a body, like crawling towards people and cutting people in half as revenge for her being cut in half. But she like stiffens her arms and like waddles up to people. It's so stupid. It's not good. It's definitely one of his jankier movies in my opinion. Ew. The Closet. This was not a good movie. This was a South Korean movie. Kind of had some hype around it because it has some good named actors in it, but it is not. I gave it a 1. I'm super disrespectful to this movie. It was boring. The beginning was alright, but not amazing. You know, creepy kid, good stuff. But the second half is so bad. Like I said before, they bring in some super exorcist using some spiritual powers to freaking do some key blasts at the ghost. It was so silly. There's some like decent scenarios, but even those weren't good. I don't know. I hated this movie, honestly. I don't respect high ratings at all. Spin-off of the Insidious movie. That's not even a good thing. And Insidious was definitely better than this. Oh man. I'm not gonna talk about this movie. This movie is not a horror movie at all. I don't know why this is in the horror genre. This is just a drama movie, yeah. Great movie though. I would recommend you watching it if you're in for some crazy ride. Ooh, look at this movie, 9 out of 10. This one was very good. This is a classic. I know a lot of people really like this movie. I've never even heard of it before I watched it. It is such a fun watch. The acting choice by the director, like how he made the actors act, was very fun and unique. Definitely had some what was another janky acting movie where the actors just seemed really weird, but it was on purpose? I think it was Killing of a Sacred Deer. Sort of had that feel in the terms of acting. The story was great. Just almost every technical aspect felt very engaging and fun to watch. The ending, I didn't love the ending because I didn't understand it. It was a little big brain for me. That's probably why it's not a 10 out of 10, but I absolutely was enthralled with this movie. This is definitely a must watch, and I respect the 10 out of 10s. Okay, Jamie Chrisley. I don't respect anything lower than like a 7 out of 10, just because it's definitely not a jump scare movie at all, but it's fun. It's unique. It's definitely a classic, and yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Gozu, another meaty movie. This is not a horror movie. This is a Yakuza movie that's just very weird and dreamlike. Very like Alice in Wonderland-y sort of thing. It's just trippy. I have no idea what's happening. It's just fun. It's fun. It's one of his better movies in my opinion, actually. But yeah, it's absolute insanity. Not very scary. Wouldn't call it a horror movie. Ew. So, dude, a lot of the recent South Korean movies have been so disappointing. This movie was not good. Better than The Closet, I think, but it is an exorcist movie, kind of. Again, near the end, actually, they do bring in an exorcist. He's not super powered, but he does still fight them with ki blast, I'm pretty sure, so it's boring. It's not good. I disrespect you, Scary Jess. This movie is not even near that. You know, if you're giving it a 6 out of 10, fine. Anything higher than that, get out of here. Ooh, this was a 4-hour documentary about horror movies in the 80s. Yeah, this was very interesting. I'm not like a super 80s fan, even though it does have a lot of the classics. I mean, I definitely won't argue with someone if someone tells me that's their favorite year for horror, because it definitely is, at least American horror. Lots of fun stuff. I enjoyed it. It was 4 hours. It started dragging at the 3rd hour, but that usually happens. That even happened in Love Exposure, which was a 4-hour movie too, despite me loving it. But yeah, it's a fun, interesting watch. I can't really like judge it on anything else. The only good thing about this movie are the moments where the actual people involved in the movies talk, but it's so full of internet reviewer types just describing scenes from the movie. Who the hell cares? Oscar. I disrespect that. It's very fun. You know, like obviously there are actors and directors from the old ones, but there are like, you know, people like from Dead Meat. I forgot his name, but like popular YouTubers and stuff like that. It's very fun to hear their insight and stuff. I care. I do care. I don't know if you care. I do. Amulet, this movie was so bad. I bet that's kind of controversial. Nope. Top reviews. people really love it. I don't know. It's artsy in a bad way. I've said this before in the channel. I think artsy horror can be really good, but the average artsy horror is boring. More boring than the average horror movie. It just doesn't resonate in me. I don't care about anyone in the movie. The plot is boring. The best part of this movie is, like, even though I hate the ending, I kind of love how disgusting it is watching the main character turn into a woman, or a woman monster bat thing. It's not good. And I know, these type of movies will always have people giving it like a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10. It just boggles my mind. It just doesn't feel good at all. It feels like it's trying way too hard to be unique when it's just barely good as a movie. I don't respect this guy giving it a 9 out of 10. Constantly surprising and kind of entrancing horror film that goes all in on the gore and punishment without being excessive. It's not even the point of the movie. There's definitely gory, but yes, then it's a punishment movie, so I guess that is a true statement. But it just boggles my mind, and I know it's all opinionated, but it's just not great. I don't know. Lair of the White Worm. This one's a classic. I actually watched this because of that 4-hour documentary. It's the only movie that when I saw scenes from it, I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. I enjoyed this. This is sort of a weird vampire movie. It has the eroticism, which you see in a lot of them. It's a very fun and interesting movie. Definitely a different take on vampires, and I enjoyed it. A lot of snake puns and stuff. It's fun. It's not scary, but it's a fun movie. I respect higher ratings. I don't know about a 10 out of 10, but I respect like 8 out of 10s. Are we done? Oh, we have one more row. Okay, hold on guys. Final row incoming. Alright, we've reached almost the end of the video, so let's see what we watched semi-recently, within like the last couple, 2-3 months, I guess. Should be fun. Relic. Ooh, I know people really enjoyed this one. I didn't. I did not like it. I was surprised because some people I I still respect their opinions, but they really enjoyed this. Well, I didn't. It's another artsy film. It's definitely better than Amulet. To me, it feels like a movie. Like, it doesn't feel like a movie. It doesn't feel like a movie with like messages. It feels like a message with a movie around it. Like, it feels like a metaphor with a movie around it, and it's just not interesting to me. I respect it, and I'm sure that takes a lot of skill, but it feels like a non-movie. It feels like it's just a message, like a very strong message, and I'd rather have a movie with messages intertwined in the actual plot. But this one feels like it's actually, I know it's kind of confusing, but it feels like it doesn't have it's not a story on its own. It just feels like this movie was made to convey this singular message, like this movie is a metaphor for this message, and it just didn't vibe with me. I will respect people that rate it higher though, but it's just not a type of movie for me. Okay, next, Oz Perkins. I don't know, his movies are like, I don't understand how he goes from The Black Coat's Daughter to movies like this. These are just so boring. It's another, really, I thought this was, Emma Stewart, or what's her name? I already forgot her name. Really? I thought she was in it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. This movie was incredibly boring. I almost fell asleep. The scary climax that was building up to it just wasn't scary, and it kind of just spoils it from the picture. So good job, advertising teams. I'm the bored person that watched this film. I agree, Dell. Oh god, I don't respect it. I mean, it's an artsy film. Some people will always rate it higher, but it's just so boring to me. It's actually worse than Amulet, because at least Amulet had some shocking, gory stuff. This was just sleeper from start to finish. Poor Osburton. Did he direct anything else? I don't think so yet, right? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I will keep watching, because maybe one day he'll go back to his roots and actually make something good. Okay, that's a little disrespectful, but still, I don't respect this movie. Imperator. This was by, again, Joko Anwar that did Satan's Slaves. This was a good movie. I think I liked Satan's Slaves a bit better. It's another... Is it Thai or Indonesian? I don't remember. But it's another one based on the folklore. You definitely appreciate it if you actually know it. I don't. I think it's Indonesian. It's Indonesian for sure, right? But yeah, it's a story of two people who try to pick up their inheritance from a village. It's like a person who left their parents when they were young, and after learning they died, they want to go to their own village to pick up their inheritance because they're strapped for cash. It's a very interesting story. Again, since I don't actually know the Indonesian lore about this story, it makes it very interesting and unique. So it's a good watch. I would recommend it again. I think he's a very good director, and I'll probably look out for his films that don't look janky. His good horror films, I guess, like these two. But yeah, good stuff, Joko Anwar. I respect it. Sputnik. This is a Russian film. I think it's my first Russian film. It's an alien movie. It's very interesting. It's not very scary. I'll say it. I don't really love sci-fi stuff in general. I'm not very much of a sci-fi guy. So I didn't love this film, but I thought it was fun. Again, first Russian experience of having your first movie in a different language or made in a different country that you haven't watched films before is pretty interesting. So I enjoyed my time. I think it was good, and I respect 8 out of 10s for this movie. It was definitely a unique take on alien stuff. Okay, so I went on a mini Hammer binge and watched 3 Hammer films. I've never watched a Hammer film. This was like a low-key recommend. Obviously I didn't check out the bigger ones like Dracula and stuff, but from the Hammer films, I'm pretty sure I rated all of them like a 7 out of 10. Like, none of them are scary at all in my opinion, but they're very, very entertaining to watch. Fun action sequences, stuff you can watch in the day and not mind, because it's a horror film, but it's not actually scary in my opinion. It's fun though. I think it's a fun experience. I enjoyed it. This is like an actiony pirate vampire movie, very unique. It then has its eroticisms and stuff. It's good. It's good stuff. The Devil Rides Out is a cult movie, I believe. Christopher Lee in the helm of things. It's alright. I think I liked it a little less than the vampire movie, but it's fine. Yeah, I mean, they're Hammer films, right? I'm sure all of them are like fairly good. Vampire Circus. Oh, this one was janky a bit, but I still enjoyed it. It's, again, unique, fun, just has a certain Hammer charm. Don't need too much explanation. I'm sure if you watch a Hammer movie, you probably like already have some expectations. I think the ones I watched are a bit more low-key than the bigger ones, so who knows, maybe you might want to check those out. Amityville 2, The Possession. I like this movie. I've obviously watched the original, and I think I watched the remake. It's been so long, so I don't exactly remember one. This one was very entertaining in my opinion. You know what? I respect those high ratings. I think it was filmed very uniquely. The content matter was extremely disturbing, and it was just a very fun watch. It definitely was a lot better than I thought it would be. I think this is a bit underrated, to be honest. This was a very fun watch. I'm surprised, but I mean, underrated. I mean, every movie, it's just people's opinions. You know, I'm saying I don't I don't respect the opinion, but I mean it's their opinion, right? It's just me jabbing at them a little. Get Dude is a comedy. It's fun. It's a very Zoomer movie, I feel. You'll appreciate it if you're younger. I didn't love it though. I thought it was a little... I mean, it's ridiculous, it's fun, but it's just not the type of movie I love compared to some of the other comedy horror movies. I wouldn't put this like near them, but whatever, it's fun. You might enjoy it more than I did if you're into the Zoomer stuff. Book of Blood, this one was recent. I guess I rated it higher than average, I guess. I enjoyed it. It was anthology. It was only 3 stories, so it was like long anthology stuff, but I really appreciated the plot of some of these, and I think it's just because it's inspired or like a remake of the book, which is very popular. So like if you did a good book, you're remaking, the story's always usually gonna be like above average. And I thought the plot of the story was pretty good. The acting was meh. The directing was nothing special. There's some bad CGs, but I enjoyed the actual stories of the first 2. The third one was pretty boring. It was just like callbacks to the first 2, but the first 2 stories were pretty good. Okay. Ooh, this movie was really good. I enjoyed this. I watched this like a week ago, I think. I really enjoyed this. This was about a cop investigating a series of killings of young women appear to be done by a wolf. So it's kind of a werewolf movie, kind of not. I don't want to spoil if it is an actual werewolf or not. But it was a really fun movie. I enjoyed the cuts. It felt very unique. I love the acting by the main character. I guess it's Jim Cummings. I'm not sure. Sorry. John Marshall. Yeah, it was. I thought it was very fun. I loved the last action sequences. The action sequences in general were actually very captivating in my opinion. This is a very good watch for a 2020 movie. I really enjoyed this. And I respect the higher ratings. Yeah, I thought this was like one of the better movies I've watched in a bit. That's actually from this year. And our final movie I watched like 2-3 days ago, Howling Village. This is by Takashi Shimizu, who's the creator of the original Ju-on stuff, so I really respect him. I think that series again is one of my favorites, but this movie it's pretty boring. I wasn't excited because a lot of the stuff he directs is kind of janky besides Ju-on, but yeah, typical movie fashion. It was interesting in the first half and it got worse as it continued, but the visuals in like the first 15 minutes of the movie I think were very good. There's definitely some unique shots even in the latter parts that shows the director's creativity. So yes, I know this guy has the potential, so it's cool at least, but it's not a great watch at all. But yeah, I think that's kind of wrap it up. Hopefully you enjoyed this, just, short. I mean, it's a long video, but we went through like 70 something movies, so it's relatively short insights. And if you find anything interesting, then good. If you have any thoughts on some of the movies, then feel free to let me know. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. And I had a very fun October. Hopefully you guys had a fun October too. And yeah, maybe we'll do something next year. We'll see. But thanks for your time. And see you later. Woo! Have a fun Halloween. Woo woo woo.